Hey guys, welcome back to another garden episode with the Country Hobbyist, and today I am going to set myself up for a bunch of ridicule for setting up this tomato trellis. And today I'm doing it on black plastic, well, the DeWalt ground fabric that we plant our tomatoes on. And I mentioned this the other day when I was showing you about weeding the green beans, about how clean the tomatoes are. But the truth is, my tomatoes are in terrible shape because I haven't been pruning them and I haven't been getting them up off the ground. So today we're going to set fence posts, we're going to set our top posts, and then we're going to work on kind of getting these trellised up as long as we still have daylight. So just as a reminder, if you haven't seen my other video, it's linked below, but we're using 10-foot pieces of 1/2-inch conduit. Just, electrical conduit, and then 1/2-inch connectors that we're just screwing these together with. That one's pretty much on there, so I'm not going to try to take that off, but you can see there's that connector. We're just going to connect them together. We're using 8-foot tall fence posts. We are post driving those in the ground, and then where we're going to put the posts, we're just burning a little hole to set those. I'll show you here real quick. So that right there, just like we did with our tomatoes, you can see we just burn a little hole in the plastic. This ground fabric, because it's woven, it sears the edges so it doesn't unravel, and just leaves a nice little hole there. You can tell if you don't do something with the edges, what happens is it's woven and it'll just pull apart. So basically by burning that, it melts it all together, keeps it from fraying, keeps it nice and clean. I need to clean up the end. Let me grab a fence post and we'll get this next one driven in. Okay, so 8-foot fence post. We're going to drive it down where the flange is below ground. If you don't have one, post hole driver, this is just a post that's got a cap on it. Nice ones have handles. It doesn't really matter. Either way you use it, your shoulders are going to hurt after just a couple of these. Especially if you're in a sit-down job. If you're in a stand-up job or outside trades, not too bad if you're a physical guy. But I want to tell you, if you're a sit-downer, I'll be hurting tomorrow. So just like that, that one's not real straight, but I don't care. The last thing I use are 1.25 PVC connectors, and these just go on top, and they're just a guide. Ultimately, they're not really for anything but to just hold that in place. We're really just going to focus on the weight, like the pull down, to hold these all together. So we don't care about them being, I don't care about them, you might, I don't care about them being super stiff or anything. I just want them kind of all together here. I'll take it and slide it through this, see where we land here. So ideally, like, that hole, that 1.25 is big enough for this 1/2-inch plus the connector to ride through. Okay, that's kind of the whole trellis setup. Next we'll use tomato line, and I might grab that tomorrow, tomato line, to come down and connect each one of these tomatoes and really start helping them grow upwards. I don't know, maybe I should do a better job of, and I probably should point this out if anyone's following me for like advice on this. So I just want you guys to know, like, this is just my way of trying to do things. I'm just learning. I'm no expert. I'm like progressing every year. Like I said the other day when talking about weed and green beans, I want to be I want to get better at this over time, and be better, so that if there becomes a time where I have to be responsible, like self-reliable for this stuff, I've already like worked out all the kinks. So you guys are like over the, like if you watch my stuff from last year and this year, like I'm working through kinks. These aren't like how-tos, right? These are just, this is what I do. This is my perception of growing a garden, and this stuff is just for us. By far not about a perfection at this, and not really, the best and the wisest person to go to on it. But I think Dan made a comment, and I think it was really important to point out that one of the main things that we're trying to gather from this trellis is to get stuff up off the ground and let air flow to keep the stuff from getting disease. What he was saying is, I think it's better to keep your tomato plants further apart, not crowding them together. Even though these are 2 rows of tomatoes and they're just jammed in there because they've gotten so bushy. I haven't had a lot of time to keep them pruned up like I like to. This is going to be hopefully like for the at least next year, maybe the year after, where the next 2 years, where I keep my tomatoes. And with that, I'll be able to leave this trellis up over winter. So I've got, that going for me, not having to take this down. I'll have more time next year to just start getting them up on the trellis. But he mentions about being able to trim up off the bottom, get air, keep stuff off the ground. The other thing too that he mentioned is, as the tomatoes grow, and you harvest from the bottom, you can let the trellis line down, and I think that's where those retractable trellis lines would be really beneficial in that case. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those, and I'll show you our trellis setup, our line setup when we get there. It's just what I'm going to do. It might not be the perfect, but it just gives a path for these tomatoes to grow. So it's been a couple days. I've got the trellis done. You can see the top post here. I've started to put up some tomatoes. There, you can see them right there. And I just wanted to say that it's a terrible camera angle, and it clearly shows I have no idea what I'm doing. But what I wanted to show real fast was just 2 things. One, how I like to put this up, and 2, that it's raining outside, and that's when I decided to come out here and start doing this. So I do read my comments, and so last year we used these clips, and I actually have a whole nother bag of them. But what these do is, there's see right there, that clamps on to the actual string. So if you look, that clamps onto there. This is why I like these. And even though it's not closed all the way, that string doesn't move. So I will put this on my string, and then I will run a piece of the I'll run part of the tomato through, and it holds up. Now I read my comments, and one of the comments is like, hey, you're wasting your money on those. What are these called? These just plant clips. I think there's like 200 in a bag, and I don't remember how much I paid for it, but it wasn't very much. They said you could do the same thing with zip ties, so I grabbed some zip ties that I had. My only thought, and I asked this, like, how does that work? Do you hold it tight? Because we put the zip tie on that string, right? This still slides. I don't know. They said you did the same way, so I'm gonna try it. I'm not gonna knock it. I think there's some legit thoughts around there. My only thought was, how much is it gonna save? And the way that I do this, which could very easily be wrong, like, let's not argue that, right? I like to have this like secured to my twine. So the other part of this was, last year I used wooden stakes. Terrible idea. Horrible, terrible idea. Most of them pulled out of the ground. This year, when we laid down this plastic, I was gonna buy metal stakes to lay down this ground fabric, and it was like $10 more to buy a 1,000 pack box as it was to buy like a 250 pack box. So I just bought a 1,000 pack box, and so I've got these ground stakes. This one's rusty because it was sitting in a bucket that was sitting in the back of my truck, and it got rained on, and they rust really fast. But this is brand new. It's never been stuck in the ground before. So kind of what I like to do is just kind of double overhand knot it there so that hangs, and then I'm gonna go to this far plant. You can't see it. Let me move the camera. So we're gonna go up and over first. That way we've got our box of twine still hooked up right. And we're going to this little dinky plant here. I mean, I guess there's many ways of doing this. I'm gonna go through my fabric. That could be a terrible idea. I don't know. That's pulled tight. I'm going to cut this twine. The reason I go over the top first is just a little bit easier for managing the twine as it comes down through here. So most of it's still in the box. I'm not really wasting anything in the box. All right. So we're mostly taut, and we'll go back down here to the bush. Just gonna take this clip. We're going to snag on there, and then pop that in. And that's pretty much the extent of it. So that's gonna hold that up, and as we come up the plant, we'll just continue. I'm gonna grab this next tomato plant right in here and do kind of the same thing. So in this one, let's just try, let's start by holding up one of these lines. I don't know how well you saw that. It seems to work pretty well. I mean, it's holding all that up. Well, let's do a true test. Let's do a couple of them here. So I know there's probably some people who are like grimace mode right now that I've got so many like vines coming off of this, and I'm kind of hooking them all together. And I don't really care. I mean, my problem is, and it's a me problem, I just have an issue on pruning off suckers that have already put on tomatoes, and that's all that's really happening here. I've got some suckers that have already put on tomatoes, and I don't want to trash those. I want to just utilize what we've got, and so we're just going to hold those up off the ground, and we'll go through and kind of air these out as they get up. So I'm sure that if you think that zip ties, because of the cost of them, are as efficient or more price efficient and easier to use than these little tomato clips, I'm not going to dog that ideology whatsoever. It definitely has merit. For me, my opinion is I'm going to use these clips. I found it much easier to find your twine and just pinch together one-handed. I can't one-hand a zip tie. I have to two-hand a zip tie. So when I'm trying to hold the tomato up and also zip tie around, I run out of I felt like I ran out of hands really quick. With this, I can hold the tomato up with one hand, and I can one-handedly kind of pop that together, and then it's there, and then I can, move other things around. My grandma always used to say, don't knock it till you try it. And I'm not going to knock it. I think that there's definitely some potential there. Me personally, I would be okay spending the extra money for these little tomato clips. And honestly, this is my way. This is definitely not a how-to video. This is just a, I'm going to name this probably something like, this is my tomato process. Like, this is my tomato trellis. This is how I trellis tomatoes. If you have questions or comments about it, please feel free to share. Let me know what you think. Let me know. I'm trying to do better each year. I'm learning. Obviously, like, I'm experimenting with new things because of comments that have been made before, such as the zip ties. Great comment, and I want to try it out. Give us a thumbs up if you like what I'm doing. Comment below if you want to see me doing other things. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.